Okay, so we now find ourselves at Objective 2, where we are reflecting on and discussing our Week 8 and Week 9 performance outcomes to make sense of said outcomes. So you can see that in these 4 discussion pieces, you will be doing some critical self-assessments and that you will be including self-quotes. Like I said in another video, these self-quotes are also block indented self-quotes. Each discussion piece focuses on a different item. So let's go ahead and look at what this one focuses on. Present your entire response for item 2 of the Week 8 Task 1 wrapper. Block indent entire response 10 spaces to the right. I didn't notice that I had the incorrect item number here till Monday afternoon around 2:30 p.m. So look at your document and make sure that if you have a different number here, you might have item 3 or item 1, make sure that you put item 2 here. Remember what I said about paying attention to details in the instructions? So notice that this is not asking for a response to Week 8 Task 1, but the wrapper that went with Week 8 Task 1. So make sure you're paying attention to those kinds of details. And then of course you're going to go to the gradebook and look for that. Again, this is where you have to pay close attention to the wording. So this is Week 8 Task 1, but that is the Learn Smart assignment. So you're looking for something with the word wrapper in it and something about Week 8. So this one says task wrapper for Learn Smart task, which was this. So Learn Smart, Week 8 Task 1. And here it says for Week 8 Task 1. So this is where you're going to get the information that you need for this part of your writing assignment. You're going to the task wrapper. So of course you would click on that. And don't forget that even if I haven't graded it, you can still retrieve your submitted answers. In my mock-up, I have graded this item, and I am going to give you some pointers and some clues on how to do well on this one. The pointers and the clues will apply to the other items that you work on. So I'm going to item 2. So item 2 is question 2. And so I have to find my response. Now you will have a paragraph of at least 3 sentences here. And so you're going to, of course, copy and paste that into your Word document, just like all the other stuff that you're retrieving and pasting, 10 spaces to the right, block indented, and italicized. Okay, so now let's take a look at what you're supposed to do with that. Did you get the score you expected? Why or why not? What could you have done better to improve your intellectual academic outcome for that task wrapper item? So what you'll want to do is you'll want to turn these questions into your answers. You know how I like for you to incorporate words, question stems and or word phrases to show me direct, explicit attention to your focusing on that item. So you will say, I did or I did not get the score expected. When I say why or why not, you need to tell me, let's just go to an example, going back to, let's go back to my example response right here, which isn't really an example, but it's what we're working with. So here you can see that it's 23 out of 30. Did you think you would score less points if it's out of 30? Did you think you would score more points? I'm going to give you very quickly what numbers or what score corresponds to what letter grade. So if you scored a 27 or above, that's like making an A on this item as a standalone submission. If you made between 24 and 26.99 points on this, that's like making a B. If you made between 21 and 23.99 points on this, that is equivalent to making a C on this. If you have at least 18 points to 20.99 points, then that is the equivalent of making a D. If you have less than 18 points, 17.9 or less points, that's the equivalent to making an F. So you would say, yes, I have a score of 23. You said that I should interpret that as me making a C, and that's what I thought I would do. Or you can say, no, I got a 23, and I was so sure that and you said that was a C, and I was so sure that you were going to that I would make at least a B on this, but you said that that would be a score of 24. So look at how I'm using information. So you can use that information to answer the first question. Now, and I'm really trying to make this as easy as possible for you by giving you this coaching I'm telling you just how to go and find the information and construct your sentences. So why or why not? So I just gave you information on how to use your score and the letter equivalent for each score. So what did you expect? And was the score and the letter grade that I told you is associated with your score in line with your expectation? And you might say, yes, I thought I would get a B on this, or I thought I would get in the 80 range, and you told me that my score was this, and you told me that was, so you can do that. Now, what could you have done better to improve your intellectual outcome for that task wrapper item? So one thing to keep in mind that I really want to stress is that this is the week 8 task 1 wrapper, but you are not looking at the score for the original task. I am actually asking you to discuss your intellectual outcomes for the wrapper item, all right? So for this one way that you can get feedback on how you could have done better is you can look at the rubric. So you would open up the rubric and you would look to see what is clicked. So you could say, well, I see now I could have done better with respect to relevance. I was scored as borderline in terms of meeting that relevance criterion. According to the rubric, it says that my response fell between unsatisfactory and satisfactory, meaning that, and then you could paraphrase something in here, quote something in here, then maybe paraphrase the first sentence in here, quote the first sentence from here. So do you see how much detail I am getting into? So then you can comment on your other scores. You might say if you have perfect scores for something, you don't need to quote what is in there necessarily if you have some negative things to criticize. So focus on the things that you lost points for. If you got full points for something, just say, I do see that I got full points. For example, with this one, you could say, well, with respect to clarity for this response, I see that I got a perfect score. I got 6 points. And the minimum that you could get for this item was 3 points. The maximum I could get was 6 points. According to this, I got the full points possible for clarity. So you don't have to tell me what that means. If you have some items to discuss with respect to things that you didn't do so well on. So some of you, I did a little bit of a shortcut. Some of you got 30 out of 30 points. If that's you, then I did not use the rubric. You should still be able to either go here or to some other previous assignment for which there is a rubric. Click on it, and what you will want to do if this is you, that you got all of the points and there is no rubric, I didn't do a rubric, is what you'll do is you will assume that you got all of the points in the rubric. So let me show you what that looks like. Okay, so I want to scoot this way and it's not letting me. All right, I'm just gonna make it bigger. So if you got perfect points, that means that you did really good, and really proper English would be really well. And then you would tell me for what items. So you would say, well, according to the rubric for relevance, I got full points, meaning that my response that I did a good job directly and addressing your questions and prompts. Do you see how I paraphrased that and made that my own? And then you can say, I also got full points for this, whatever this standard is, whatever this standard is, whatever this standard is. I would like for everyone to not pay attention to this last row. Whenever you're doing the critical self-assessments, there was never an issue with anyone with communication ethics, and so let's not waste our time talking about communication ethics. I applaud you all for always manifesting communication ethics in this class, but I do want you to focus on the other stuff. So this is where then you are addressing the part of the prompt that says, oh, another thing, one more thing that you can do is going back to the gradebook. Let me get out of, I need to exit that rubric. So there's that. Another thing that you can do is you can go back to see if I gave you a comment. Let's see if the comment shows up here. I'm going to make this big. Give me a second so I can see. Okay, so I don't see, oh, actually, yes, there should be a comment at the bottom if there is a comment, but there isn't. Okay. All right, so what I recommend you do, though, and I will be able to show you this, is let me go back to the gradebook. You might have a personalized comment from me, so you should also, or could also, make use of that. So let me go back to Week 8 Task Wrapper 1 to show you what this looks like. And a lot of what I'm showing you is going to apply to the other critical self-assessment, so I'm not going to be repeating all of this. I'll just refer back to this video for some things, so keep that in mind as well. But here we are, the task wrapper for Learn Smart Week 8 Task 1. So another source of information that you can use to construct your answer is to see if I left a comment about that item. So notice what it says here. You did not explain why you think you had not ever stopped to think about your concept of knowledge prior to this class. Instead, you focused on why it is important to do so. So this could be something that you include. So obviously this is about item 2 because this is what item 2 had you focus on. And you can paraphrase this and you can say, well, so going back to the prompt right here, right? It says, what could you have done better to improve your intellectual outcome? So again, you can use the rubric and or probably a little bit both, any personal comments that I might have left, provided the personal comments are relevant to that task item that I'm telling you to reflect on. And so you can say the professor, or you can say you can speak directly to me. You can say, I think one thing that I could have had done better on that shows up in the rubric as a poor score or a low score for relevance and sufficiency and intellectual attentiveness and intellectual carefulness. You can say I got low scores on these. These were my scores. You classified that as satisfactory or, failed to meet standard. And in fact, you told me that I didn't focus on the right thing. You said that I did not focus on what the prompt was asking, which was to focus on why I had, if I'd stopped to think critically about my concept of knowledge. And I didn't, even though I said I did not, I didn't tell you why not. As you said, I focused instead on talking about why it's important, but you didn't tell us to discuss that. So I'm just showing you how you construct an answer for this part. Let's just look at the prompt one more time. So again, just to make sure we're on the same page, I've already given you information on where you can go and where you go to answer this question. You look at your score. You use what I gave you in terms of what your score means in terms of a letter grade. You tell me if that letter grade via the score is where you expect it to be, why or why not. Give me a little explanation. Yeah, I thought I did really well. I felt really focused. I've been paying attention to my writing. I've been using your feedback. I'm a really good writer. I follow instructions well. Or you could say, no, and my score is what I expected because I was rushing through it, or because I was feeling confused and I was feeling accused of blah, blah, blah. But then again, that's going into the why or why not. So I would say you're going to want to write about 2 or 3 sentences for this part. And for this part, if you're going for the A-level response, I would say 3 or 4 sentences for this part. If you want to write up to 5 or 6, that is up to you.